Well, good morning, everyone. This is MightyStream, and I'm going to do our April the 21st, just for today, in a meditation. I greet everyone. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well this morning. The title of the meditation is Fear. Fear. It says, we have found that we had no choice except to completely change our old ways of thinking or go back to using. That comes from the basic text, page 22. Many of us find that our old ways of thinking were dominated by fear. We were afraid that we wouldn't be able to get our drugs or that there wouldn't be enough. We feared discovery, arrest, and incarceration. Further down the list were fears of financial problems, homelessness, overdose, and illness. And our fear controlled our actions. The early days of recovery weren't a great deal different for many of us. Then, too, fear dominated our thinking. What if staying clean hurts too much? We'd ask ourselves. What if I can't make it? What if the people in NA don't like me? What if NA doesn't work? The fear behind these thoughts can still control our behavior, keeping us from taking the risk necessary to stay clean and grow. It may seem easier to resign ourselves to certain failure, giving up before we start, than to risk everything on a slim hope. But that kind of thinking leads only to relapse. To stay clean, we must find the willingness to change our old ways of thinking. What has worked for other addicts can work for us. But we must be willing to try. We must be willing to try it. We must trade in our cynical doubts for new affirmations of hope. When we do, we'll find it's worth the risk. Just for today, I pray for the willingness to change my old ways of thinking and for the ability to overcome my fears. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you, God. Grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Please and thank you. What a wonderful meditation. Fear, talking about those automatic negative thoughts that I call them ants, right? People in, my field, we call those ants, automatic negative thoughts that we can't seem to get rid of. They're always prevalent in the back of our heads, even though we may be acting in a positive manner, doing things that we know we need to do, participating in our recovery. Somewhere in the back of our head, these ants still seem to be operating and moving around and creating pessimism and negative thought and sometimes negative behavior. But here's the thing, guys. Being willing to acknowledge that they're there is, I would say, part of the problem, right? A lot of people don't want to give voice to them, or they give voice to them and never give voice to anything positive. But to act like you don't have ants, to act like you don't have negative thoughts, pessimism, things that, you're doing one thing, but on the inside, you're thinking another, to not acknowledge them is problematic, because if you don't acknowledge their existence, they just seem to grow in the dark. They seem to grow in the dark, and eventually you're not even in a position where you can at least act positively. You begin to act less positively, and you begin to speak less positively because those ants grow in the dark, right? In the light of recognition, in the light of acknowledging that you have them, you're in a better position to address them, right? You're in a better position when you think them to flip the script over to the positive thought, right? To tell yourself, you know what, I'm not doing that today. No, I'm not thinking like that today. I'm not thinking that everyone in Narcotics Anonymous is against me. I'm not falling for that trick today. I can count at least 2 people that are for me. And that is not all of NA, but really, I don't need a lot more than just a few folks that have faith in me. It said, find somebody in NA that has faith in me. Didn't say find a whole room full, but you can. You can find a whole room full of people that have faith in you. When we're at the convention or we're doing clean time and we're acknowledging clean time, we are all saying that we know if we did it, you can do it too. Now, if you're the type of person you need complete enmeshment from every person you encounter to feel affirmed, that's an issue that needs to be addressed, but it doesn't get better by not acknowledging it. Speaking of affirmations, it says that we must trade in our old cynical doubts for new affirmations of hope. Somewhere on this channel, you can just search it. Once you come to my channel, you will find something entitled 101 affirmations, right? And these are affirmations that I went through and I created because I felt that people like us need to be able to hear some affirmations that are relevant to the type of lives we live. And it's not the absolute best. It's my first time out the gate trying to do music in the background and affirmation. But if you just need something, right, to affirm yourself while you're getting ready for work, you can play that, or you can play any channel that has affirmations on it. Now, I don't get too much into chakras and all. I don't get into that at all, right? So I try to stay away from channels that might have that on there. But if you do, there's things that you can find easily. And if you don't, there's things that you can also find easily. You know what? There's this pie of life is big enough for all of us to have a piece. Today, what I want for you is to have the willingness, right? To pray for the willingness to change your old ways of thinking and have the ability to overcome your fears, because your fears are rooted in those thoughts, those ants, those things that you don't speak out loud. But people usually can tell that they're there because a lot of times those fears dictate what we do and what we do not do. And I told you the other day, fear was a large character defect of mine. I mean, I want to say I've gotten rid of the shortcomings that come with it for the most part, right? God has removed the majority of those shortcomings. But the character defect itself, fear, don't think for an instant that that character defect is just gone. It's always doing push-ups in the background, waiting to be released out of prison. It is always there, and I'm always mindful. You know what? That is your weakness, girl. And so anytime you see it trying to raise its ugly head, I have to knock it down with everything that I have. Because I don't have time to be in fear today. I don't have time to act like I'm in fear today. Right? And all of the shenanigans that run around that cause shortcomings because it needs to be fed. I'm not feeding fear today. I'm feeding my faith today. And you figure out what your shortcomings are as a result of your character defects and make a decision today to pray for the willingness to have those removed from you, but to change your negative thinking, your old ways of thinking, and you will overcome it. I do believe that, because if I can do it, you can do it. I have to sit that on there, right? I have to sit my faith on the fact that I believe in you because I overcame it. And I was a cold piece of work. Yes, I was. MightyStream was a cold piece of work. I want for you to have a beautiful day on purpose. And just remember, it's baby steps. It's one step at a time. And if you don't begin to tackle it, it just gets bigger and bigger. Have a beautiful day on purpose, and I will too. Talk to you tomorrow.